their fight to get rid of foreign nationals operating as zama-zamas in their areas. Police officials have met with community leaders to discuss the issues they're facing as well as the way forward. Hundreds of foreign nationals have been arrested over the past week. Our reporter, Nqobile Madlala, is covering the developments for us. Nqobile, some difficult reporting on the ground for you a little bit earlier. The community are very emotional. Tell us a little bit about what they've done so far today.
Well, Annie, the whole day, essentially, we've followed the community going from one house to the next. So in the community, there are areas which they know for a fact this is the areas where they generally have illegal miners. So what we did was we followed them as they go through to these places. They've raided them. They found some of their assets, what the illegal miners or the alleged illegal miners use when they go into mining, things like the pendukas, as well as some of the gas tanks that they have in there. Even the mining, the dust that they get from the mine dumps. So the community has gone from one place to another, raiding it. And what they've done also is burn some of their areas, some of their assets, things like mattress, clothing, all of that they've burnt, taken it outside. If it's a place that is owned by South Africans, then they take it outside and then burn some of these things. And of course, they speak to those owners to say, please do not allow them to live in this area. But what's more, what we saw was that they also started burning houses which they believe that have been, in a sense, hijacked. They say that some of the South Africans have had to leave their area because of these illegal immigrants that have taken over their houses, and because of that then they take these houses and these houses become an area where they sleep and live in, and the community has decided to burn all of that down. And they started in the morning, as you can see behind me, still gathering around here. So they still here, some of them, of course, joined by the mayor and some of the community leaders, still going into some of the shafts in the area. But essentially the community says they are getting rid of the source of the crime in the area.
It is, of course, very important that communities not take the law into their own hands. But these communities are so frustrated. What are the authorities saying?
Well, Anlie, the authorities, we understand that the minister is going to be here tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So they are going to get more answers with regards to the issues that they have raised. But what they have said in the past and what they have continued to say to us is that they want to see the police on the ground do their work, that they worry that there are some people on the ground that are on the payroll from these illegal miners, and this is why the work is not done on the ground. We do know, though, that the authorities have remained in one position, saying that they are willing to work with the community, but the community must give them intel. They must let them know what is happening, saying that the intelligence is on the ground, and so they ask that they communicate together. I think that's one thing they have in common with the community, because the community in itself has also made it clear that they are willing to work with the authorities, but they want more visibility. So, of course, it remains to be seen what will be happening here once the minister has arrived. For now, though, whilst they were doing the raids, we did see one or two vans that were with the community, which means that they are working together at this point. But Annalie, I think what is sad about this community is that despite all of this happening, they have these scars that remain with them, the pain that they have endured because of the crime in the area. In fact, we spoke with some of the elderly in this community, and they've also shared their bit of stories, these horrendous stories happened to them and their families. And the mayor as well was speaking to us a little earlier on. So I'm going to ask you to just listen to both of those bites.
All right, so we had an engagement with the district.
We live under constant fear. We don't come out of our yards. We're stuck. It's only now the community has had enough. We've all had enough because nothing is being done for us. Nothing. So, yes.
What's been happening in this community, ma'am?
Okay, 3 years ago, I can tell you my own experiences. 3 years ago, they came, my son came home late. They shot at him inside my yard. Luckily he tripped and he fell and the bullets went over his head. He left his phone, everything was on the floor. They didn't take it, but they were shooting at us. They chased him right into my house. Luckily, he could close the door so they couldn't get in, and he was screaming for us. When we came out, they ran. A year later, to the date, a year later, they broke into my house again. 3 of these Zamazamas. They beat my husband up with a crowbar. They hit my son with a crowbar. They stole stuff out of our house. My husband and my son were in hospital for 7 days.
All right, so we had an engagement with the district commissioner. We have mobilized multiple resources. They are going to do a more coordinated effort. What we're doing is we're also partnering with the sister municipalities, because as we do operations in Nqobile City, for instance, we notice that it's putting pressure onto Beckersdal, for instance. So we need to have a collaborative effect where we coordinate with, for instance, Rand West municipality as well as Nqobile City. So when we do operations, we're able to coordinate the efforts.
Mayor, we've just spoken to Nicolene. She's one of the community members here. She herself has been personally affected by what the illegal miners or the alleged illegal miners have done to families here. They've asked about things like simple things like cutting the bush down. She says this is the very area where she was dragged. What are you going to do about all these issues?
Yes, so as you can see, the topography here is very difficult to cut. We would need to use multiple outlay of multiple resources in order to cut all of these trees. Most of these trees have been here for over, I don't know, 15 to 20 years, judging by the size of them. So we will have to actually have a program of action with the community and then allocate resources. I think the best way to do it is to have A, some TLBs, heavy equipment, but then B, to take individual slashes and mobilize with many community members to walk through the area.
Nqobile, we have so many vibrant and diverse communities in South Africa where South Africans and legal foreign nationals live side by side, and often foreign nationals are also victims to many of these crimes. Can you tell us whether you have spoken to any foreign nationals living in the West Rand who have had similar experiences at bearing the brunt of crime?
Well, at this point, Anley, when you're on the ground, really, you can't tell who's legal and who is illegal, besides the fact that they give you an idea that the illegal foreigners are the ones that come in a certain way, and this is how they work with the community. But when you look at the community at large, they are one. So you can't tell the color, you can't tell the race. They remain being one and all together. So we can just safely say that those that are legal and are with the community, they are part of the community. We saw it in Kagiso, where a lot of people came together. It didn't matter what race you are, it didn't matter what color you are, it didn't matter where you were from, but what mattered was that they were fighting against the crime. So whilst we were reporting, Anley, we didn't ask them if they were legally, if there were people that were legally in the country, but we spoke to the community at large to hear their problems and what is it that they're fighting against. But South Africa certainly is not one of those areas where they are basically fighting against people just because they are from outside of the borders. In fact, some of the leaders have reiterated those issues, talking about the fact that they're not trying to be xenophobic. All they want, and you'll remember this community said the same thing, all they want is to be safe. They don't want the crime in the area. We've spoken to some of the residents also that have said they've been affected, but we also later found out from the leaders that it's in actual fact they were not telling the truth because they were basically using or getting money out of those illegal foreigners that are in the country. But they've been clear, the mandate is not to ride everybody out of the country or out of the place, but rather to work together as a community and remain as one, but not have the crime, to get rid of the crime in the spaces that they are in.
So encouraging to see communities standing together against crime. Thank you very much. Our reporter Nqobile Madlala covering the West Rand for us, and we continue with that issue. West Rand residents